There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission. For the next hour, we will control all that you see and hear. You are about to experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to podcast them down. This is the Podcast Them Down Outer Limits Rewatch. Tonight's episode, Devil in the Dark.
Podcast them down! Hello, Metal Nation! It is we, Podcast Them Down. Tim, Matt, and Doug. I don't know what that intro was. I thought this was the Star Trek one. Nothing? All right. So it's been a while.
Tim hasn't hit play yet.
No, Tim definitely hasn't hit play yet.
So we haven't done a Star Trek episode in a while, and we're on our third year, I think, of getting through season 1, and we're towards the end of it, finally, of the Star Trek original series, where, to refresh your memories as well as mine, that we are going through each episode, taking it act by act, and determining how metal and how good each section of the episode is. So
now I know that Doug does not watch Lower Decks or Strange New Worlds, but I can remind him that TOS is canonical, and it stands for the era of those old scientists.
Okay, I don't know what's going on. So, as per before, I have not watched the episodes. I'll be watching it in real time while you discuss it. And unlike before, we're gonna try to get these episodes down to an hour-ish. So let's find out if we can do. We have proven that we can do an episode in 5 minutes.
I mean, we have
the control voice committed to that. I think that's what he said.
But that's also this is a tall order with this episode because there's a lot to talk about.
I said that was the goal. I didn't say that was the mandate.
Right. Well, I'm glad you like mandates because there are a lot of them in this here episode.
Sounds a little
mandates and 5-year plans. All right,
I'm hitting play. Go for it.
So we open. They're like
There's
zooming into a
planet. On a planet.
It's Janice 6.
I have to interrupt already. Why are they just zooming in on a matte painting? So again, for the people who haven't heard the earlier ones, I am watching the HD remaster, so it is like painfully obvious the makeup and the cardboard props and in this case the matte painting. All right, I will shut up.
The original episode actually looks better in this case, I would argue.
Something I've noticed, I wasn't throughout this episode. I think they had a very light touch in the remaster because I wasn't sure that I thought I somehow was not watching the remaster. I later discovered I was, but I think for reasons that will become obvious, they had to keep a lot of the framing visuals for this episode.
Okay.
Yeah, there's some shots in front of a window where you can, and as you watch the original, it looks great because it's a true optical matte. The computer couldn't keep up, and what they put in sucks. But it looks good either way.
I might have opened the wrong
we go from a
file.
planet to a painting to a set.
I might have opened the wrong file because this looks like an episode of The Prisoner.
Yeah, there's no Star Trek guys. There's just a bunch of jaunty gentlemen.
All right, I will shut up now.
Pipes.
So there's Sam. He's being relieved by Schmitter.
Yep.
We learn that something is killing people.
Yep.
The guy recognizes a pattern of guards dying and doesn't want to die, but nobody cares. Then he dies in a point of view shot. Oh, and we learned something called the Enterprise is coming.
Is that it?
And,
I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, I mean, they're just talking about, he needs to. Poor Schmitter just needs the last 4 hours before the Enterprise gets there.
Got it. Do we need to go to the deliberation chamber, or is there more?
Poor Schmitter. I mean, we can go. I mean, he's just burned up.
It's never. Yeah, let's go. Let's hit the deliberation chamber.
All right. Oh,
So
I like
what
how
we know
everyone
already.
I like how everyone rushes around the corner to see Schmitter took a shitter, I guess.
We don't exactly understand what Schmitter is guarding, right?
Right.
Even in the context of the episode, we still don't understand what these people are actually guarding.
No.
Which of the 1,000 holes?
In fact, the more we learn in this episode, the less sense it makes for him to be guarding anything.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I had noted metal descriptive quote, which must be Schmitter, like the rest of them, burned to a crisp.
Yeah.
Good sample. It's a 5. I don't know, the callousness, the like, guards are dying. I don't want to die. Like, just stand here.
Yeah. Just don't do that.
That's kind of metal. All right, so it's a 5 quality and a 6 metal.
Can they put like 2 people on watch? I mean, like, why does that have to be one guy?
Guard.
All right.
Wow.
That's the rules. Those are the rules.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm going 5 and 6 as well for the same reasons. I mean,
5 quality, 6 metal. I'm only. No. You're right. It's 5 quality. I do like people being burned alive. I do like going in media res. So yeah, no, you're right. I will also agree a 5 and a 6.
hey, there's that.
That was easy.
All right. Again. All right, let's go back.
It's gonna be like a 10-minute episode.
Matt, you're on deck.
All right. Okay, already quizzically. So they said he has to hold out for 4 hours because the Enterprise is on his way. But we then learned that they arrived 2 days later.
Whoops.
So maybe there's I'm sure there's some animated series adventure that explains where they were. But we start with a captain's log. They received a distress call from Janus 6, which is one of the Federation's most important per diem production stations. As we all know, per diem is one of those essential Star Trek elements that we know all about and why it's important. Yeah, so we don't need to go into those things here.
That's that
today.
Piece of skin on the number.
So they beam down. This has been a long established colony. So the three aces, Spock, Kirk, McCoy, beam down to talk with Chief Engineer Vandenberg, who we met as part of the Unruly Mob.
Gotcha.
And we have a nice long scene in an office.
You just pulled out the thing.
Okay, so this office has a window, and we can look out on kind of the per diem production facility. We start to learn a bit about the creature. They have no idea what's going on. So everything, they were mining per diem. It's a very productive mine. It can supply the needs of 1,000 planets. The first thing that started happening is the machinery broke down. And then people started dying. They would send engineers down to fix the machinery, and they would find them burned to a crisp.
Seared to a crisp, which is an odd culinary distinction.
Yes, seared to a crisp. Only one person has ever encountered whatever it is and lived. This guy, Ed Apple,
is he the guy in
with
purple?
A phaser. Possibly. I think aren't they all wearing purple?
No,
there's one guy in very bright purple, and he's got like a handkerchief. Yeah, he comes in and
he's the guy who shot it with a phaser. But he has one of the little wimpy Type 1 phasers. I think this is the first time we established Type 1 and Type 2 phasers.
I'm confused by
Phaser 1 and Phaser 2.
Oh yeah, Phaser 1 and Phaser 2.
I'm confused by the space miners' uniforms because they zip up from like the fly area all the way to the neck, right?
Yeah.
They also have these belts like, what's the function of the belt? Because you can't go past the zipper because there's also a flap in front. So the belt disappears into the flap.
The zipper is the belt is so you can go to the bathroom, by which you have to unzip your entire torso, but it doesn't just flop down into the space toilet, obviously.
Obviously. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so so they talk about how the Federation wants per diem, so they need to solve this problem. And Apple suggests that they just shoot down in the tunnels. He's very skeptical why a starship is even here. You can't do anything. There's a chart of the mine that looks like something a fourth grader drew, like with like just paint. I guess this must be something that was just background, and they were like, no one's ever going to be able to see this on their 14-inch TV. Right. But it looks really dumb. And so they're just talking about what happened, and there is a perfectly spherical thing on Vandenberg's desk that is intriguing to Spock.
I think it's a dodgeball.
and Spock looks at it and asks what it is. And Vandenberg says, I don't know, some stupid bullshit. There's millions of them down there. They're not.
We just break them. I don't know.
Yeah, they're just lame ass silicon nodules. And Spock seems really intrigued in them. And it's very clear. It's already apparent that these are somehow important. But I guess miners are miners, and silicon is silicon. So they don't know what's going on. There's no life surfaces. There's no life that can be found other than the human residents. It's a big old mystery. What this creature is, what it could be doing, how it can be stopped. No one knows. So they're all just kind of sitting around, scratching their chins, wondering what to do. When we switch to another shot, and it's the colony's main reactor has had a cartoon-shaped hole burned into it.
I'm pretty sure I know what the... I'm pretty sure the monster is just the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
I also love on the door of the reactor, it says power reactor, caution, radiation. There's no safety measures at all.
Well, they know this is a very typical thing in the 23rd century. They know. I like how the guard or technician or whoever the guy in the way doesn't run. He's just like, he gets burned to a cinder, seared to a crisp, if you will. But strangely, instead of destroying the reactor, the creature just takes the main circulating pump.
Which the guy then looks down, even though it's probably full of radiation.
Yeah. And so we learned that with this pump taken, the reactor is going to go supercritical and irradiate half the planet. And that, I believe, is the end of Act 1.
All right. Just stick your head into the circulation pump hole.
I like Spock's value-free discovery statement when they first come down. Mm-hmm. Where he's like, I'm sure there is an answer. It simply has not been discovered. And I really like the Federation is like a 5-year plan.
I like intermediate how that Spock statement is just so unhelpful. It's like, thanks, Dick.
Yeah, 5 people are dead, and that's all. It's like, just pay attention.
Yeah, the Federation seems to operate under some kind of like socialist market structure, because later on in this episode, we will very clearly hear about the importance of the profit motive and acquiring riches. But there's also like a very much a controlled economy. Obviously, if there's a production failure, the natural person to send is your most powerful warship. So lots of things going on here. Interesting things.
I really like the guy in the purple, whatever, the process engineer, when for no reason he kind of like taunts them.
Yeah, his like
you think y'all pretty tough, don't you? Starship, phaser banks. You can't get your starship down them tunnels.
Like dozens of his friends have been seared to a crisp, and he is just there. He's looking at the rescue, like the cavalry has showed up. He's like, well, what are you fucking guys gonna do, asshole?
Thanks for nothing.
As we know from the cage, they have a lot of lasers and space mortars, like whatever they need, they have.
Why?
They don't need no starship.
Why do they still have miners? Like, can't they use a space laser drill?
There's Tim. There's a lot of pergium down here.
There's
so
so
has
much
to get out of the
pergium.
ground.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think you're getting the gravity of this pergium.
Isn't that what they pay you like every day you're on a trip? The per diem?
Yeah. That's you get one G.
The facility is really dirty. I noticed that. So it doesn't seem to be a space OSHA.
Well, certainly not if you can. If the only thing between you and the radiation is 2 doors that the Tasmanian devil can go through.
But you know what? Even though the space is really dirty, they're surprisingly clean. Like they're miners, but they don't seem to have any. They have
the pink
brightly colored clothes.
They seem to mostly guard whatever ineffectively.
Yeah, definitely. And there's no surveillance of any kind, so they don't know what keeps searing them to a delicious perfection crisp.
And at the very end, when we learned that the pump mechanism is down and that threatens the reactor, Kirk outlines some falsely maximalist choices. Mr. Spock, we seem to have been given a choice: death by asphyxiation or death by radiation poisoning.
That's it.
Yeah,
I guess leaving the planet is not an option with the per GM output of 1,000 planets at risk.
No way. It's like per GM or nothing. It's not time to turn your tail and run. This place is worth its weight in per GM.
All right, numbers.
I like the headstrong and belligerency of all the miners. I like the 4th grader map. I like how Spock has already figured it out in Act 1. I like the cartoon Tasmanian Devil Circle. I'm going to give this a 6 quality, and I'm going to give it a 6 metal. It's maintained its metalness, and even though it's not objectively good, I love everything about this first act.
It could also be just a byproduct of the coyote chasing the roadrunner, and maybe the cannon turned around and the coyote's like holding onto the cannonball and it goes through the door.
It's like,
yeah, I'm going to keep an eye out for some anvils, but I'm going to agree 6 and 6.
Nice.
That's a good score.
Yeah, it's a little talky. There are metal moments, but overall it's not super metal. Yeah, 6 and 6.
All right, onward.
All right. I like my notes better than the summary. Scotty is like, fuck no, can't help.
Yeah. They call up to Scotty and ask if he has a spare part for the reactor that's going to irradiate the whole planet. He's like, nah.
I mean, isn't it just a water pump? Or is it a per diem
apparently,
pump?
See, I guess, I thought you were an engineer, Tim. But
you don't know what a PXK per diem reactor is?
Yeah, there's no way that they just have those spare parts lying around.
Sounds more powerful than nuclear.
Nuclear.
Scott's like, yeah, I'll put something together. And then he doesn't actually pad the time, which is a strategic mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's only meant to last 48 hours, and we'll see if it does. They drink space coffee.
They do. Yeah, no, there's more paper cups. There's the paper cups we love. And while they're drinking the paper cups, they're drinking space coffee from the paper cups in the office again. And Spock is still obsessed with the silicon sphere, despite all that's happened. And he starts to postulate that their life sign readings are based on carbon. And if there was somehow a silicon-based life form, their sensors wouldn't be able to read them. And I think they just start...
It rocks McCoy's world.
Yeah, McCoy thinks that's bullshit and basically says as much. It's like, well, but life's based on carbon, you dick.
And the deep irony being, we already know McCoy is actually a plant.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right, because he's dead and he's replacing the plant. But I guess it's still a carbon-based plant, perhaps.
Yeah, it was celluloid, which I guess is carbon.
Mm-hmm. So they call down a security team of people we know. At least some of them are going to die. With Lieutenant Commander Giotto, and he makes sure that they have. Was it Phaser 2?
Yeah, they need Phaser 2.
They need Phaser 2.
Gonna personally program.
Yeah, so even though they have done nothing to test their hypothesis, Spock just sets the phasers so that they will be more effective against silicon.
Well, just to slightly jump back, they excessively and accurately speculate on the nature of the creature despite a lack of any facts. Like, if it was silicon-based, it could be at home in the rock.
Yeah.
It seems to me that in order to survive, it would have a natural armor plating.
Uh-huh. It's just
and then it could explain as much, especially since the colonists are only armed with Phaser 1. But our people have Phaser 2.
McCoy says silicon-based life is physiologically impossible in an oxygen atmosphere. And Spock says, well, maybe it can exist in brief periods before returning to its own environment, you piece of shit.
Yeah. I still think you're imagining things.
I mean, I didn't, but this is one of the good, this might be a deliberation chamber comment, but like, this is such a great exposition dump that I didn't even think of it as that, because it's just like witty banter, but it is exactly just setting up everything we need to know.
Yeah. What if?
That room, the room that like directly in front of where they were drinking space coffee,
mm-hmm.
there's a chart with all the lines going down.
Yeah, that's the thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
So they discover that all the nodules are from level 23. And weirdly, that's where the attack started. So they decide to go down to level 23 to see what's going down.
You glossed over the checks in on Scotty fixing the pump, but it looked like a space hookah.
Well, and Kirk's dialogue to Spock, where he's like, I'll be right there, Kirk out. Scotty, Ride herd on it. Kind words. Tender, loving care.
Yeah,
Kiss
gross.
it.
Ugh.
Baby it. Flatter it if you have to, but keep it going.
Ew. Okay. Yeah, that's all.
Gross.
So we get the red shirts, and Kirk's like, we must produce. Hunt.
Yeah, they're about to double the body count, aren't they?
There's also some atypically bloodthirsty comments where like Kirk is giving all the red shirts a pep talk, and he says 50 people have died already. I don't want any more deaths. And then asshole Vanderberg is like, except the goddamn monster.
Yeah, and the very militaristic, like all the red shirts are standing like this, and
Yeah.
Kirk is marching back and forth.
Yeah. So they're down in the tunnels now. They're looking on their tricorders, and don't they hear somebody scream?
Yeah, I think someone dies. They all run to it. The creature approaches. They fire, wounding it, and it runs away.
Mm-hmm.
Guards come. Oh, and one of the guards has no ranks on his wrist. I don't know if he just borrowed someone else's shirt that day, but the ribbons, he's nothing.
Yeah, I guess
He's an
he's the
intern.
new guy.
And then Kirk immediately recognizes that. And Spock picks up that humorous chunk of the creature.
Yeah. So they fire, and then there's just like a big rubber thing. It's like, well, this fell off of it, dirt to do. And so he's looking at it, and it's also hard to. I guess we're supposed to believe that this is somehow like mineral, but it's just very clearly foam. And even the foamy parts of it, like the foam color, is still there. It's a little hard to suspend disbelief.
Yeah, and Spock's looking at the tricorder and it's like, yep, it's the only creature in hundreds of miles. Just one of them.
Just one.
And Kirk knows that it is a wounded animal and is going to behave exactly like a wounded lion or whatever. And then we get that pointless philosophical discussion at the end where they're like, it's the only one of its kind. Therefore, killing it would be a crime against science. And Kirk's like, we have no alternative. We must produce the Pergeum. And Spock actually agrees.
I also like how it's a crime against science, but not a crime against the creature itself. It's like, well, genocide is bad because we studied it yet.
Yeah. The philosophy says this is wrong. All right, I think
mission
that's
is to
it.
protect the colony, to get the Pergeum moving again.
All right. I'm already here. Waiting for you.
All right. Well, we burrowed through the tunnel, so we're here too.
Oh, okay.
The thing is made of asbestos. Very so 60s.
I like how effortlessly they pick up that giant thing. They're like, whoop.
Yeah. Shouldn't it be heavy?
Yeah, this was good at moving the plot along. I like how they attack the creature for no reason. It wasn't posing I know it's killed everyone, but it wasn't posing a threat to them at the moment. It was just kind of shambling along the floor.
Well, and again, Spock, Kirk's like, then we're dealing with more than one creature, despite your tricorder readings, where we have a creature with an extremely long lifespan. After they point out there's thousands of tunnels, which Spock does, I guess, mental math and says this is well beyond the life of a single creature to make all these tunnels, even though it cuts through rock like butter and can apparently go like 30 miles an hour.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know.
And then Spock's like, or this is the last of a race of creatures who made this tunnel. If so, it is the only survivor of a dead race. So killing it would be a crime against science. Yeah, that's where that was. But yeah, Spock connects all of that with no like evidence.
There's a massive amount of speculation and lots of callous disregard for life. And all those make for a good segment, a good act, and it's metal. So I have to go all the way up to 8 and 8 for this.
Okay.
It's getting better. Well, no, 7 for quality because
7 quality.
I feel like it's on the way up, but this whole thing was pretty metal.
I'm going to go with
people in that you're expecting that are gonna die. Only one of them does. I'm waiting for you to talk again so I can interrupt again.
Well, I like first I'm going to give it 7 and 7 because I could kill for a 7 and 7 right now. But I also like the character of Lieutenant Commander Giotto because he just seems to be like a brainless security thug. He has no. I don't understand how he rose to the rank of Lieutenant Commander. He's just like, so we can't kill it? He just looks like a gruff. He would be a perfect like space marine. Like he belongs in the Starship Troopers universe. He's just like, how many we're gonna kill, and how many guns do we need? And I kind of just like
infantry made me the man I am.
That's why I'm a citizen.
And he's not even very good at his job. We'll see.
He's on the ground for like 10 minutes and already one of his men died.
Plenty more where that came from.
So Act 3.
Wait.
Go ahead. Oh, no, 7 and 7. Okay. Tim, hit it. This is when I think we get the team and then Kirk's marching up and down is like, must get the per diem, 50 men, kill. They speculate on the nature of tunnels, decide that we did all that. Guards ordered to capture and shoot to kill. That's right. Spock slips in capture. Kirk's like, this thing must die. Production is at risk. And Spock, that's what he tells Spock. And then Spock's like, if able, capture it. And then that annoys Kirk. And then Kirk's like, Kirk tries to send Spock away. It's very passive aggressive management. He's like, you're very smart, Spock. So we really need you with Scotty to work on the science thing. And Spock's like, that is not my competency. You know this. And Kirk's like, well, we both can't be at risk. If one of us dies, it's not an issue. If we both die, that's really bad. Everything breaks. Though this happens like every episode.
Yeah.
And then eventually Spock wears Kirk down and blitzes him with some questionable math.
Well, very questionable math, because so Spock's reasoning to Kirk is that there's approximately 100 people engaged in the search against one creature. So the odds that both of them would be killed are 2,228.721. Now, first of all, wouldn't it just be 50 to 1? But also, that doesn't take into account the fact that they're together. So if the creature appears, wouldn't they just both die? They don't have any defenses against the creature. But I guess Spock here is betting on the fact that Kirk is illogical and just concedes. Maybe. I mean, Vulcans don't lie, but they do exaggerate. So maybe that's what he's doing here.
And Kirk just hears those big numbers and knows who's saying it and doesn't ask any questions. Whoa. I guess everything works out. Scotty's thing breaks.
Yep.
And then Kirk everyone off the planet. And then the Vander whatever, they're like,
Vandenberg,
nope. We'll fight that thing to death with clubs. And Kirk's like, I like that.
But it doesn't make any damn sense because the danger's not the creature, it's the radiation from the broken reactor. They're not evacuating because of the creature. I mean, I guess proximately because of the creature, but you can still leave the planet and come back. It seems very strange why they're resorting to clubs immediately. Also, clubs have no way of overpowering this rock dissolving monster. I guess I really don't know what they're doing here.
Yeah, and Kirk's responding to one thing but thinking about another one, and is entirely blind to this fact, apparently.
Mm-hmm. So they now have 10 hours before the reactor goes super critical. So ticking time element check.
And I think this is when Kirk and Spock separate, and it's like, well, there's 2 tunnels, 2 of us. And Spock finds the chamber with, Kirk finds the chamber with the silicon spheres. Yeah. And this is when the creature we don't know the name of knocks over like a column.
Yeah,
and covers Kirk with dust.
And because of the we haven't done a good job of describing the creature. I always thought that it looked like a pizza bubble. Like when there's a like that, I think is a good description. Like a carpet.
Well, it looks like Pizza the Hut from Spaceball.
Yeah, it looks like pizza. So it's just like a blobby thing, kind of. But it also scurries on the ground. It's like a carpet and a pizza and like a critter all kind of combined into one. But it very awkwardly just knocks over a fake rock, and that covers Kirk in dust. But luckily they've discovered the tunnels converge again in some chamber, so they both just keep going forward.
Yeah, at one, like when we first see the unnamed creature tunnel, that one of them makes that great comment that's like, that goes back as far as the eye can see. Which is less evident to the audience, but
it's like we'll that's so far. Also here we have some weird role reversals, where as soon as Kirk is in danger, Spock's gusto for preserving the creature is questioned. So he kind of emotionally and viscerally responds to save his friend. Like he tells Kirk to kill it. He reminds Kirk that it's a proven killer. So it's very interesting there. It's just these elements of Spock.
Well, and the whole mission scene, really the second one is so Vietnam.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a seek and destroy mission. It's like, this is the forward command post. We'll control the operation from here. Yeah. See it, kill it. Just keep on walking. Not going to hold any land.
Yep. Just keep on going. So they finally get into the chamber or the cavern. And the creature appears. But it doesn't come after them. It just kind of scuttles around.
It respects the power of the gun.
It does, yeah. So it recognizes the gun. But it also turns around and shows them its injury. And do we start the mind meld here yet, or is that in the next scene?
I think that's Act 2.
Yeah,
so let's go. Tim, speaking of chambers, hit it. All right. Seek and destroy.
That
Evacuate.
Fire.
Oh, fuck.
The reactor's going critical, but if you have a club, stay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of metal going on.
It attacks too fast for anyone to fire their phaser, so Bring your club.
That's what they said.
All right, no one's gonna volunteer a score. I'll volunteer a score. 8 and 8.
All right.
Getting better, and it's getting more metal.
I mean, you're right. I like the pushing over the boulder. I like the clubs. They've gone full Frankenstein. They're just
Kirk's posing, and then so he's all tough with the security people, but then with Spock, he gets all passive aggressive. Yeah, he's like, wouldn't it be great if you helped Scotty? Don't worry about, I've got this. Mm-hmm. Why don't you go engineer, do some science? And then he's called on his bullshit and tricked with some numbers. So that's a very metal. So it should be noted, and read Wikipedia more than you believe me, but if I recall, of course, this feels like an Outer Limits episode, and a lot of the creative people came from the Outer Limits, which had ended right before this show started, and it was a performance artist who made that costume, and I believe the costume appears in an Outer Limits episode.
Yeah.
So and he sort of came to Star Trek, and he's like, look what I can do in this costume. And I believe they came up with the story on the basis of what they had, which was a pizza costume and a creative performer in it.
That is exactly right. He's like his name is Janos Prohaska, and he's a Hungarian artist kind of guy. And he made a lot of the monster-y things, including the Mugatu, I believe, with Hua Chang.
Oh, from Zoolander?
No. Well, I mean, Mugatu from Zoolander. Yes, exactly.
It's the same look. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
All right, so it's an 8 and an 8.
It is.
All right,
absolutely is.
Okay, so yeah, we bled a little into Act 4. This is when the cave-in happens and the monster reveals itself. That's the cut. Then we see that the monster recognizing the power of the phaser, and it shows Kirk its wound. Spock comes in and yells, "Kill it, Jim!" And that was the role reversal you were talking about.
Right. Okay.
The wound looks like a fried egg.
It does. And it has a lot more of that foamy quality. It looks like they just cut a piece off of the foam of the costume and were like, that's good enough.
And then for most of the rest of the episodes, in fact, that'll be my contribution to this act. I'll read all of Spock's parts, Matt, but he basically writes a My Dying Bride song.
You're not wrong. Okay, now something happens that's very confusing. So they mention a mind meld. And I had always assumed that a mind meld involved touching the other being.
Only if it's carbon based.
Apparently it doesn't, but then later it does again. So Spock tries to mind meld with the Horta. And it's kind of like their last hope of communicating with the creature and trying to figure out what's going on. So Spock mind melds and immediately gets all emo.
Yes. Where's the line? Pain. That's all I got, Captain. Waves and waves of searing pain. It's an agony.
And then it skitters up to a rock, because I guess the Horta is smarter than Spock. So while Spock has just been overcome with emotion, the Horta has learned English. It hasn't learned grammar very well, but it skitters onto a rock and dissolves something, and it writes, "No kill I." which I still don't exactly understand what that means, and neither do they, because they're not sure if it's a plea not to kill it or a promise that it won't kill them, or both. But it's a very iconic scene. And Spock, who is just mind melted with this thing, Kirk's like, "What do you think that means?" He's like, "I don't know."
Yeah, but he does find out the name.
He does.
And then Kirk's like, shit, the per diem. We've got to get production up. We need the piece. Spock,
Like-
make it trust us.
So he immediately calls for McCoy to come down with his medical kit. And McCoy comes down there eventually. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Giotto is trying to hold off all the clubs of Mr. Vandenberg and his men. So Giotto's like, hey, all these assholes are trying to come in with clubs. And Kirk's like, don't let anybody in here except Dr. McCoy.
Well, I like the Giotto's. We're at the end of the tunnel. Mr. Vandenberg and his men are here, and they're pretty ugly. Should I let them through?
Yeah. It's like they're in their clubbinest mood.
All right, and
Spock goes back to mind melding again, I guess. And
murder of thousands, devils, eternity ends, the chamber of the ages, the altar of tomorrow, murderers, stop them, kill, strike back, monsters.
And then while all this nonsense is going on, McCoy walks in, and as McCoy is a lover of all things alive, he's like, "What the fuck is that?"
End of life, murderers.
Yeah, Spock keeps on going, and Kirk orders McCoy to fix. To tend to the injuries of the Horta, and he famously says, "I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer." And Kirk is like, "You're a fucking doctor, asshole, and that's a patient." Spock, tell him we're trying to help.
Understood. It is the end of life. Eternity stops. Go out into the tunnel, to the chamber of the ages. Cry for the children. Walk carefully in the vault of tomorrow. Sorrow for the murdered children. The thing you search for is there. Go. Go. Sadness. Sadness for the end of things. Go into the tunnel. There is a passageway. Quickly. Quickly.
So meanwhile, Apple in his purple outfit and Giotto, they're like, we're going to beat the shit out of that thing. And they're still trying to hold them back. And we're back in the cavern again. Kirk has gone down into the chamber of the ages, which is all where all those silicon nodules are. And he sees a bunch of spheres, some of them whole, some of them broken. McCoy is yelling at somebody on the communicator, telling them to just send something. He's like, I want it. Never mind what I want it for. Just bring it down here. And Spock is still Horta-ing.
And this is where's that? I think I read that one, didn't I?
Oh, it's time to sleep. Just more general despair.
Yeah, it's time to sleep. Oh, it is over. Failure. The murderers have won. Death is welcome. Let it end here.
And so Kirk runs in and tries to shake Spock out of it. And he's like, wait, are these silicon nodules eggs? And everyone who's been watching since the first act says, of course, you fucking idiot.
And then Kirk just, this is the classic, like, he just restates the obvious. The miners must have broken into the hatchery. Their operation destroyed thousands of them. No wonder.
You know, maybe us 2023 people are much more savvy than the 1968 audience. Maybe they're like, holy shit, of course.
Or their mind's fucking blown.
Whoa. Okay. So now more craziness happens. The miners punch the fuck out of Giotto and overpower all the trained military guys and start clubbing their way. They club the security guys, and they're literally like walking into the chamber like in club mode, like when Bart was just kicking air.
Right.
And meanwhile, McCoy is covered in mud or something, and he's literally, I guess he took his own quip literally because he has a trowel and some like cement or something, and he's filling in the injury on the Horta. And all the miners arrive. Kirk says, "Don't fire. The first man that fires is dead. Don't threaten the Horta," and explains basically that they have a life cycle, and that there's they all die out every 50,000 years, and one of them is left alive to tend to the eggs, and that's how the species is regenerated.
And out of the gate, Kirk goes with shame and belittlement by stating as fact things they can't possibly know, like they should know it.
Yeah.
You've killed thousands of her children. Wait, who? Her? What? And the what that Vanderberg says is great. He's like, what?
Yeah, and then it's like you, even though we were all on board with killing this thing mere minutes ago, we are now morally superior to you in every way.
Baby killers.
Kirk retrieved the pump. He's like, "Here's your pump, assholes. Why don't you go plug that in?" So
fucking despicable, you people.
So Vandenberg is immediately worried about the operation, and he says, "How can we continue our work if there's thousands of these things crawling around?" And here is where the profit motive comes into play. So basically, they've worked out a deal where the Portas are gonna dig and the miners are gonna pick up, and they'll be richer than ever.
Yay! Space capitalism.
Kirk's like pacing, and he switches to that Chicago style accent he does. Like, we're gonna make a deal, and outlines it, and they all end up with more boundless profit and endless treasure. Yeah. So we find out.
We also learned that McCoy is a silicon lifeform genius, and he just had the ship transport down something that they used to build shelters out of. And he's like, "Well, it's mostly silicon, so I just put that in the wound, and it worked," which doesn't make any sense, because if you think about it, like, covering your wound in coal does not heal you.
How do you know? How do you know? Have you tried it? I mean,
I guess I haven't.
Activated charcoal is great for you because it's basically you.
Yeah, and he literally says he troweled it into the wound.
He had a fucking trowel in his hand.
Next time I have to
I'm beginning to think I could cure a rainy day just because he applied some mortar mixed up there that was beamed down.
Like, I know it would change the tenor of the episode, but I kind of wish it just died of acute asphyxia or something.
Right, or a chemical reaction to something in the asbestos-filled silicon mortar.
It's like, ugh. Okay, so now we have a little breather. We've fixed the reactor, and we're back up on the bridge. We get a voiceover from Mr. Vandenberg, and he's like, "This is great. The eggs are hatching, and they just start digging." The first thing the little devils do is start to tunnel, and they've hit Pergeum, and they found gold and platinum and rare earths, and it's perfect. And all they do is dig, and all the miners do is just walk in their little holes and pick out all the minerals. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
And then he's like, shit, man, the Horde aren't so bad once you get used to their appearance. And then apparently the Horde have said the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And here we get another, like, Gene Roddenberry wants everyone to make sure in Tennessee to know that Spock has devil ears. Because there's an exchange about how revolting the Horde have found humanoids. And McCoy asks, "What did she think of your fucking ears, pointy boy?" And Spock says she thought they were the most distinguished human characteristic, and he had to hide the fact that not all humans had pointy ears. And they're like, the Hoarder really liked those ears. The Hoarder is remarkably intelligent and sensitive with impeccable taste.
It was an unfortunate surgery. Bad choice.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, that's the end of the episode.
All right. I like how forgiving this thing is. You committed.
I like the physical disgust that apparently both the Horde and the miners feel to each other.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, fuck, I hate these guys.
Even when you start to understand them emotionally, it's like still you're looking at them and it's like, ugh, it's hard to get over.
I like how, like, oh yeah, you killed thousands of the unborn, but I'll forgive you. Murderer.
Yeah.
I'll help you make space money.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk is very maximalist again. He's all like in charge, kill, die. Then he knows the truth, and he has to maximize that knowledge by shaming and belittling others. Then comes the maximum profit. And he's very gratified to hear about all the treasure they're securing in addition to the per diem.
Like, I wish at some point he like licked his finger and like was wearing a hat and he was like, hot damn.
Yeah, I think it's an 8 and an 8.
Yeah, no, this is a great ending to the episode. A lot of the intensity. There's a lot of things to love, especially the fucking trowel. Great. It's just great.
I was gonna say that the healing makes it less metal. But then again, it is a trowel.
It's a trowel.
He jammed some shit into the wound. Covered it.
No, it's fine. It's going to be, everything's going to work out.
He didn't even wash his hands. He just got in there. He didn't know what he was doing. He could have killed it.
He had no idea. He was like, I guess that stuff's made of silicon. May as well try it.
Yeah, so it's his the method was reckless, which makes it metal.
But also,
I will also say 8 and 8 is my point.
Okay, but I also just want to point out, like, he has a trowel, but his hands are just covered.
Oh yeah, it's like he just took them out of, like he dropped his watch at the bottom of a giant bowl of pea soup. You know?
It's like he's playing in Play-Doh. All right. Okay. Well, let us see here. This is a very metal episode. It's in the top 5, but right now it is the 5th metalist episode, 84.55. Very respectable score. Just beating out Arena, just losing to this side of Paradise, Galileo 7, Taste of Armageddon, and Court Martial.
That's a great list, Matt.
That's a great list. Mutt's Women still the worst Star Trek episode possibly ever. So I guess we'll find out next time on the Podcast 'em Down TOS Rewatch Review, or whatever this thing is called. That's not right. Whatever the fuck the next episode is, because it's not the Naked Time. Whatever that is it better? Is it worse? We'll find out.
Errand of Mercy.
We now
Errand of
return
Mercy.
control of your television set to you until next week at the same time, when the control voice will take you back to Podcast 'em Down.
Cast them down.
I'll bash him good.